Dear friends, hello and welcome today in Ukraine. I am on line 1, which means the Russians are over there less than 4 kilometers away. And I am on this position which is extremely strategic, highly sought after by the Russians, because this is where we have the heavy drones here. It's heavy shot. And it's this drone that allows us to keep mining in the gray zone and to supply all the guys holding the zero line with logistics. Oh damn, there's a drone. Well, this is off to a good start. Let me first explain some context for this video. It was filmed in May 2025, so it took more than 6 months to get the right to release it. First, because we had to wait for the position I was going to be in to change, since the Ukrainians regularly change locations. And in this way, we ensure security in this environment. We couldn't blur the whole environment, but now there's no more security issue. So we're on line 1. Line 1 is just behind the contact line, line 0. The Russians likely target the environment most, because it's from line 1 that all the first-person view kamikaze drones are launched to stop the assaults. And in line 0, they're mostly using anti-tank, 4S and standard assault rifles to defend themselves. So if line 1 falls, line 0 has little chance of holding. In reality then, it's a specific targeting. So there are specific security procedures, infiltrations are difficult, and there's a constant presence from the Russians. A determination to destroy everything that reaches line 1 may be even more of a priority than line 0. And here, I'm in one of the most strategic environments you can imagine, since these are large drones. You know that on line 0, the contact line, you can't go there by vehicle anymore, not even by quad and so on. Even with supply drones, it's very complicated. Ground drones get destroyed by first-person view kamikaze drones. And so, the resupply of this contact line is done using large aerial drones. And that's where I'm going, to this small bunker from which the supplies will be sent to the 0 line. So, this video is dedicated to how we get to this bunker, which is one of the most dangerous ones actually. In this video we won't discuss the drone or supplies, that'll be in the next one. We'll cover in detail how infiltration toward line 1 happens. So, when I see that it's a Humvee, I don't know exactly which version we're dealing with. That is, whether it's the 80s or 90s version. It's not armored and can't stop shrapnel from a nearby shell or even a grenade. And obviously not in first-person view, and there's an armored version that came a little later. The first Humvee generation suffered heavy losses, especially in Afghanistan, prompting Americans to develop an armored version. And it's when I handle the door that I realize, luckily for me, we're in the armored version. You can tell it's steel armor with thick bulletproof glass windows because you can really feel the weight. So this is supposed to withstand shell fragments and low-intensity explosions nearby. It's not protected from mines, and we know Russians are sending mines to the Ukrainian rear, especially along supply lines. And then, obviously, it has absolutely no ability to withstand the explosion of a first-person view kamikaze drone. Inside the vehicle, you notice its simplicity. That was the Humvee's intent. Analog dials with big buttons and simple switches that are designed to be operated with gloves. Controls that are sturdy with no electric or hydraulic assistance at all. That's typical of Humvees made from the 1980s to 2000s. So there's no soundproofing or original air conditioning either, even though it can get very hot or very cold in the desert or in Ukraine. So it's really a vehicle designed for reliability and simplicity with no comfort at all. That's why you see this improvised blue hose. And to provide ventilation, especially to reduce fog on the windshield. So, we take a short break on the way. We need to know if Russian drones are nearby, so there are Russian drones in the area. So there will definitely be some for 2 hours because we know their range, obviously. And so, logically, we're going to wait here for 2 hours before going to the line from which we'll launch the drones, which will do a lot of things tonight. But also resupplying for the 0 line to avoid having dangerous ground logistics for everyone. All the way to the fields that really hold the front line. And the craziest thing is it's actually good. Everything was blown apart, the building has no roof anymore, there's nothing left, the door took the blast, everything was blown away. But inside, Damn, perfect. Everything is perfect inside. Protect us, Jesus. So, we're less than 5 kilometers from the Russians to show you what the entrance to the Line 1 bunker looks like. Well, it's a trench. There's an electric generator running because no drone is nearby. So everything is covered with wood. There's electricity on the other side of the walls. Excuse me. Gas to survive, to cook. Then they bring back water. That's their method. There you go. Several bottles are over there. Electricity. Internet, Wi-Fi. So you see people are working. There's heating generated by wood stoves that builds up. If a drone comes close, we turn off the gas generator and keep working with that. It's a bluette. I don't know what that means. And like in all the places where there are soldiers, they take in the little animals. There you go. And the guys in the kitchen, they're not pretending. There are oranges, there's meat, there are vegetables, there are jars. That's kvass, a kind of non-alcoholic drink. It doesn't have alcohol, but it's forbidden. What's that? See the bush? No, it's Grechka. All right. At that moment, we knew Russian observation drones had been detected. I'm not sure how, but they were shared on the Virage app Ukrainians use on their smartphones. Well, the drone moved away, which means we no longer have an observation drone that could potentially see us approaching. Since they can't see us, they don't launch first-person view kamikaze drones or fire artillery. And so, that will already guarantee us a certain level of confidentiality and therefore better security to get closer to the line along the way. The main bridges were destroyed long ago by the Russians, but dozens of improvised crossings remain that they unsuccessfully tried to target, especially with gliding bombs. But who? An accuracy that's only about 10 meters, so they keep hitting left and right, but that's how it is. These crossings still operate. You have to imagine that in all these areas, there are still a few isolated civilians who are there simply because they have nowhere else to go, or they have responsibilities, especially those who want to take care of their animals and don't want to abandon them. But in terms of safety, from here on we wear the heavy helmet. The jammer is activated, but not all the time, because if we leave our jammer on, it can also end up being something the Russians can detect. And so, that's why in this Humvee it also has this EcoFlow battery that you helped fund for a number of vehicles thanks to the fundraiser, and which supplies the power needed to run this jammer. We can see along the route that many vehicles have been hit by Russian kamikaze drones. The team is very alert, watching the sky and listening closely. That's why we have small hatches on the side that let in sounds from outside. They also carry a frequency detector that picks up drone signals, alerting them immediately if they're being flown over, to determine whether it's an observation drone, a DJI type drone that could drop small grenades, or a first-person view kamikaze drone. Knowing that in this area there are very few fiber optic drones, fortunately, so almost all drones can be detected by these methods. We know it, we say it, and we repeat it. The goal of the Russians is to make life completely impossible for civilians in the region. To make them flee, but also to prevent the military from finding shelter. And so their goal is to raze all the houses, and you can see that all of these homes are in. As soon as there's a solar panel, it's targeted. As soon as there's a pile of firewood, they'll try to destroy it. Chimneys are also targeted, so when the Russians notice any activity, like a smoking chimney or a tended vegetable garden, they respond. They'll end up targeting that house. As you pass through Sivers, remember it's been under Russian bombardment for nearly 4 years. The soldiers must handle logistics for themselves, hold the front, and also support residents. That takes a lot of their time and energy, and they clearly preferred that these civilians could go to the rear to be safe, and so they wouldn't be a burden for them. But unfortunately, there are a number of them who will stay. And so I was able to talk to elderly people who continue to live in these dramatic, catastrophic conditions. No water, electricity, or heating, with only a well for washing clothes or themselves. And it's also left for the animals. People left their dogs and cats behind, but some told me I can't do that. There are about 20 dogs. If I leave, who will care for them? I feel a moral duty to stay and look after the animals. And then there are some who say very clearly, I was born in this house, I will die in this house, I'm not going to leave now. The Russians will kill me, but in the end, I have nowhere else to go. Because you have to understand that some of the refugees from 2022 had bad experiences. They had unheated refugee camps in winter, creating very difficult conditions and leaving a bad impression. Sometimes it's better to die at home than endure a few years of misery elsewhere, whereas in reality, since 2023, 2024 and 2025, the reception conditions have greatly improved, especially in the cities behind the front lines. Some cities are ready to welcome refugees, but most refugees today no longer want to move. From the moment we get close to the city, there is constant noise, shell explosions, we hear this artillery, either shells being fired or landing, the explosions are really continuous, and we also hear drones flying. But we're still a few kilometers from the front. So, in principle, it's something we hear from a great distance, but we hope we're not being targeted at least. But there are still the kamikaze drones, Shaheds. We try to finish our advance at dusk. That's when enemy drones will have the most trouble spotting us. And there is still some defense because we have the kamikaze drones, Shaheds and Gerans, which don't necessarily target the environments we're in and will simply go to the rear. But you have the main defenses to protect civilians, sometimes hundreds of kilometers behind us. And so there are 12.7 cannons mounted on pickups. They'll try to intercept passing Russian drones. Since these loitering missiles will kill civilians, the most dangerous part is the end of their journey. It's when we get closer to this line, one meaning our tree line where we're going to spend these 2 days. And so, we're going to unload the ton of supplies that's in the back of our vehicle as quickly as possible. The goal is for our vehicle to be able to leave again as soon as possible, as quickly as possible. Obviously, it's so we don't get detected by the Russians, but also so we don't reveal the bunker where we're going to position ourselves. If the Russians spot us, they'll obviously shoot. But that's why we're going to unload all this as quickly as possible to get the vehicle out of here, and then we'll hide. We'll wait about 15 minutes to ensure no explosives are coming our way. And if that's not the case at that point, the Ukrainians will be able to resume their work.
Personal matters are more important. Thank you.
We ran a bit, guys.
Here we go. We're here.
We'll cut this in the ground. It's hot.
Subtitling 501.
Subtitling Steam.
It's a crazy method. No, it's not a natural method.
Damn, guys, we have private rooms. It's not bad, it's awesome, guys. That's where we're going to sleep. There you go. It's hot, there's still more. It keeps going over there more. How does it keep going over there?
Yeah, it's a door. Well, that's a little shelter there.
Okay, I'm hallucinating. I'm hallucinating. Look, put that up there like that. We don't get it, you know?
It's the company's plan, right? Do you want me to draw a line?
Ah, see, everything is made of earth, on the sides, earth up to 100 a door to keep the heat in. Ah, guys, we just went up to 15 degrees now. Here, there are the batteries all night. The batteries have been charged, recharged to be able to do missions all night, so they charge during the day and at night as well. 24/7 with a generator on the other side. Here on the right, you have the room where the guys work, so since it's daytime, they're not working right now. But they'll still monitor the activity of the other teams. And then they'll handle maintenance and logistics with the drones that are updated during the day. That means we're connected to the internet with a Starlink and it works very well. Okay, let's keep going over there. Let's take a tour of the place, guys. Since this is a great Airbnb here, then we'll get over there. So it's narrow. I don't know if you realize, but basically it's about as wide as I am. That was my room.
Make some noise. I slept there. It was very comfortable.
But over there, that's where the electric generator is, so it's an open door.
I think that it must have been something like 8 or 10 degrees. I wasn't ready, I'm in fragile. Actually, I just found that out. I'll still show you how things are set up here, on the ceiling. Everything is made of wood. The walls are made of earth. But overall,
Is made of. All the necessary comfort remains.
there is heat, there is water.
There is electricity. There you go. I think it's incredibly well organized. And the friends, they stay here for almost 15 days. By the way, the cameraman you saw in the videos, he's coming back with us tonight. Because yes, there isn't a single vehicle that stays for more than 2 days, so everything happens at dusk. So when we get here, we stay for at least 24 hours, and he's been here for 15 days. He celebrated his 23rd birthday here. His birthday was just a few days ago, so now he's going back for about 2 weeks of rest as well. That's how it is. 15 days on, 15 days off rotations.
All right, let's keep going.
And then, of course, the floor. Guess what's on the ground? The batteries are going to change. You see this kind of movement and shifting. That's what's most dangerous now. It's riskier to enter and leave the position than to stay there. That's why movements toward the zero line are increasingly limited, less frequent, and less mechanized. Evacuations, like moving the wounded or delivering food, are increasingly handled by ground or aerial robots. That's the topic of the next video, where we spend a night with around 20 missions. Bombardment, food deliveries, supplies, and also mining. But I think it's important to also realize all the environment, the whole ecosystem around it, the videos I can make in the field. Knowing that these areas have been held and bombarded for years and years now, the Russians are advancing very, very little around this city and in the new positions. Actually, there are also nets, meaning there's protection between the rear of the front and on this front. But here, since we're still relatively close to the Russians, we can't set up poles or protective nets. And so these are areas that are completely exposed, knowing of course that these nets are also fragile. It's not a 100% guarantee of safety, but for example, when we're between Kramatorsk and Sloviansk and we're under the nets, it's true that we feel a little bit safer than when we're out in the open. Even if it's maybe a security that seems fake, at the very least it gives a feeling of safety in that area. See you in the next video and talk soon on the channel.